Tonight, a threat triggers unprecedented security on the campaign trail.
This will not change at all how I campaign.
Heavily armed guards, a bulletproof vest. CBC News learns new details about the security response. And 1 week out, the NDP says it's open to a coalition to block the Conservatives. Our War Room insiders are standing by. Manitoba declares a state of emergency after a fierce winter storm.
I think this is disastrous.
Chaotic scenes in Syria. Hundreds of ISIS supporters escape as Turkish forces move in. This is The National. We are now officially in the home stretch. There are just 7 days left in this federal election campaign, and it is intensifying. The parties are focused on the seats they need to win, and security is tight, especially for Justin Trudeau, who appeared in a bulletproof vest at a rally last night. The incident has added a new and worrying element to this race. Also today, coalition talk on the campaign trail as polls start to shift, with the NDP rising, but the Bloc Québécois benefiting most, at least in that province. On this politics-focused Sunday, we'll look at what's behind those numbers, the War Room strategy, and check in with voters who have just days left to make a decision. But we start with those new safety concerns on the Liberal campaign, evident again tonight at another campaign stop. Tactical officers are staying close to Trudeau after an unspecified threat. Ashley Burke with the details we've learned and Trudeau's response today.
It's a sight even senior RCMP members call unprecedented. Justin Trudeau flanked by heavily armed tactical officers. And under his shirt, a bulletproof vest, believed to be a first for a political leader in Canada.
Hello, Mississauga!
Trudeau showed up to last night's rally 90 minutes late. RCMP sources say that's a sign the security threat came last minute, requiring a change of plans. One change, his wife was supposed to introduce him but never appeared.
This will not change at all how I campaign.
Today, Trudeau said his priority was the safety of his family and supporters.
I took advice from the RCMP, work with them, but I will not make any further comments on this incident.
Sources familiar with the Prime Minister's protective detail say Trudeau and RCMP would have negotiated a safe way to hold the rally, a plan that included the emergency response team, highly trained tactical officers who respond to high-risk situations. They're usually hidden behind the scenes on the campaign trail, but last night were in plain sight, their bags loaded with firearms. Another officer carried a ballistic mat, which could have been used to shield Trudeau from bullets. Both Jagmeet Singh and Andrew Scheer condemned the threat of violence.
There should never be fear for any leader from any party to feel like there's any threat to themselves.
On Saturday night, Scheer tweeted, "Threats of violence against political leaders have absolutely no place in our democracy."
Thank you.
At a Thanksgiving food drive, Trudeau brought up the divisive rhetoric in the campaign.
I think it's very clear that that there is a general polarization right now that various parties have contributed to.
Are you, in a sense, blaming the Conservative Party and their attacks on you for what happened last night?
No.
Today, no bulletproof vest for Trudeau, but those tactical officers remained on the sidelines, a sign of RCMP's vigilance after a scare. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, on the political front today, the Liberals and NDP were out in force trying to win votes and power after October 21st. But as Salima Shivji explains, the NDP says it's open to an alternative route there, a coalition.
On Thanksgiving Sunday, Justin Trudeau was thankful for some high-profile support from Masai Ujiri, the man behind the Toronto Raptors championship. Less so when looking at the polls. The race so tight it's forced Trudeau to play defense in ridings the Liberals hold near Toronto and desperately need to keep.
All right. Andrew Scheer took a look at Doug Ford's cuts and said, "Hold my beer."
Squeezed on the right and on the left, Trudeau has shifted his attack, leaning into the word progressive.
The NDP wasn't able to stop Doug Ford. The NDP wasn't able to stop Stephen Harper. If you want to stop Conservative cuts, you have to elect a progressive government, not a progressive opposition.
But NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says voters don't have to choose. As talk grows of a minority government, Singh was asked about working with other parties, specifically the Liberals, in a coalition if the Conservatives get less than a majority.
Oh, absolutely, because we're not going to support a Conservative government. We're going to fight a Conservative government. We're going to fight it all the way.
The Bloc Québécois' Yves-François Blanchette says his party will decide who to support, issue by issue.
We will not be part of any coalition or of any kind because our only loyalty is to Quebecers.
The Liberals say their focus is still on winning a majority. They're not willing to speak publicly about a minority government, and certainly not a coalition. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Toronto.
So the leaders have been out campaigning for more than a month now, and we've seen, as you probably have heard, little movement in the poll numbers, but that is starting to change. Eric Grenier explains why.
Rosie, with just 1 week to go before Election Day, we're really starting to see some movement in the polls. So let's take a look at the national polling averages right now in the poll tracker. Still a close race between the Liberals and the Conservatives, both at about 32% support, but we've seen their support drop over the last few days. Both parties seem to have some negative momentum at this stage. One party that has positive momentum, that's the New Democrats. They're now at 16.5% support. We've seen the Greens holding their support. They're just under 10%. The Bloc Québécois, big gains in Quebec. They're now at 6% nationally and 2.5% for the People's Party. Let's take a look at the seat projections because that is where things have really shifted over the last few days. We see that both the Liberals and the Conservatives are now well below the 170 seats needed for a majority government. The Liberals have been dropping down over the last little while. We've seen the Bloc Québécois, they're now up to 33 seats in our projections. The New Democrats are also up to 25. And that could have big impact in the parliament to come if these numbers hold. Let's look at Quebec because that is where most of the shifts have been taking place just recently. We still have the Liberals with a lead over the Bloc Québécois. They're now at 33% support. That's less than where they were at the beginning of this campaign. The Bloc has been picking up almost a point a day in the last little while. They're now at 27% support, solidly in second place. The Conservatives have dropped. They're now at 16%. The New Democrats are showing a little bit of life. They've now increased their support to about 13%, and the Greens at 8%. But to give you an idea of that change that we've been seeing since the TVA debate now just about 2 weeks ago, let's look at the trend line in Quebec in the polling averages. Just about here is when that TVA debate took place. You can see that the Liberals had a bit of an uptick and then they've been dropping, while the Conservatives have been falling, the Bloc Québécois has been making gains, and the New Democrats. And this changes everything because the Liberals were counting on Quebec to give them that majority government. They were hoping to make gains in the province, but when you're looking at these kinds of numbers, it's probably not going to happen.
Okay, so there'll be lots of last-minute maneuvering this week. Perfect time to check in with the War Room panel. They're going to join me right here in about 15 minutes' time. Advanced polls have started, but that huge snowstorm in Manitoba is making voting difficult in some of those places across the province. Tens of thousands of people are without power. And as Aaron Broman tells us, that's prompted a state of emergency and a major evacuation.
The wintry storm hit Friday, but the state of emergency took effect today. Heavy winds and fallen trees have wreaked havoc on hydro poles, towers, and lines. Crews are coming in from other provinces and the U.S.
In some areas, we have more lines and poles down than standing.
Things are even worse in more than a dozen First Nations. About 5,000 people are driving or being bused to Winnipeg. Grayson Ross and his family arrived last night.
It was crazy. You know those power lines? They were snapped in half. Some were like just sticking out of the ground.
The wires?
And the wires are dangled into trucks. Trucks are in the ditch.
We rode it out for about 2 days and we were cold. We were basically just staying under blankets to keep warm.
Most people will be staying in Winnipeg's convention center and hotels. It's not clear for how long. Havana Pruden is from Little Saskatchewan First Nation.
After that snowstorm, it does not look like a reserve anymore. It just looked like it got demolished.
Across the province, about 28,000 customers are still without power, and the Premier urged all Manitobans to stay off the roads.
To a great degree, this is somewhat unprecedented, let's face it.
The storm is even affecting the federal election. About a dozen advanced polling stations were either closed or moved today. The cleanup is going to be long and expensive. Winnipeg alone predicts the recovery will cost tens of millions of dollars. Aaron Broman, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Let's turn to the Middle East and the spiraling violence in Syria. For years, the Kurds were Washington's one reliable ally in that country, and now they are on their own. The U.S. is pulling nearly all of its remaining 1,000 troops out of the country. This as events there move very fast. Turkey's invasion of Kurdish-held Syria has intensified, and the Kurds, they are turning to the Syrian regime for help. We begin with Margaret Evans reporting from the region.
The picture emerging from inside northern Syria is of a new level of chaos unleashed. These images, obtained by news agencies, show the aftermath of a missile attack that hit vehicles traveling near Syria's border with Turkey. This man is telling the reporter that some of his friends were killed. The number of civilian deaths and injuries is mounting. Here, a Kurdish family mourning their father killed by Turkish shelling. There have also been grim reports of atrocities being committed by Syrian rebel groups backed by Turkey. In the midst of Turkish shelling today, some 800 relatives of ISIS fighters, mainly women and children, apparently managed to escape a camp for displaced people where they were being held. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, say they won't be able to protect the camps holding ISIS fighters if they're having to fight for their own lives against the Turkish offensive. It continues unabated, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan defiant at a press conference. We will advance 30 to 35 kilometers into Syrian territory, he's saying. As night fell, Turkish-backed rebels were seen in control of the recently captured Syrian town Tel Abyad. And now there is another potentially ominous development. News tonight that the Syrian regime in Damascus is preparing to enter the fray after reaching an agreement with an increasingly desperate Kurdish leadership in northern Syria. Margaret Evans, CBC News, northern Iraq.
When Donald Trump signaled a withdrawal just days ago by tweet, it was controversial, to say the least. Now, as the chaos in Syria deepens, Paul Hunter has the growing outcry in Washington.
With images of the ferocity of how it's all playing out in Syria, underlining how Syrian Kurds, allied with U.S. soldiers there for years, have been left to fend for themselves. Today, fury aimed at Donald Trump for his role in the grim fate of those Kurds.
This is disastrous. They're being slaughtered. There are war crimes being committed against them.
And it's not just Democrats with deep concerns.
ISIS is not defeated.
Former U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, who quit his job in the White House months ago to protest back then Trump's plan to pull back in Syria, today underlined a sobering potential for what may well come next.
If we don't keep the pressure on, then ISIS will resurge. It's absolutely a given that they will come back.
Meanwhile, as Kurds face that growing Turkish onslaught, today they struck a deal with Syrian government forces to support them in places Americans are now abandoning, with word all U.S. troops in the north will now be pulled out.
We find ourselves as we have American forces likely caught between two opposing advancing armies, and it's a very untenable situation.
Trump tried to explain his broader thinking on all of it last night. As he put it to a crowd in Washington, why stand guard at the Turkish-Syrian border?
When we can't guard our own borders at home, I don't think so.
Today, Trump tweeted, "It's very smart," he wrote, "to not be involved in what's going on over there." Syria, meanwhile, spirals rapidly. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Here are some other stories we are watching this Sunday night on The National. Crews are trying to find a worker believed trapped in the wreckage of this New Orleans hotel under construction near the French Quarter. 2 people are confirmed dead. It's not known what caused the building to cave in.
Explosion over here. Oh, what is this?
A Canadian Forces snowbird jet crashed today before an air show in Atlanta. The pilot ejected safely and no one on the ground was hurt, but the air show was canceled. The snowbirds say it's too soon to say what caused the death. Teen climate activist Greta Thunberg, now touring the U.S., is headed for Alberta. She announced her intention on Twitter with no timeline or details, prompting this response from the Alberta government. We trust that Ms. Thunberg will recognize Alberta's leading human rights and environmental standards, especially in comparison to oil-producing dictatorships such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, and Venezuela, which she will presumably visit next, as well as major growing emitters like China. And in Japan, rescue operations are underway after a deadly typhoon slammed into the country late yesterday. Torrential rain sparked severe flooding that pushed some people onto rooftops and destroyed other homes completely. Anita Bath is watching this developing story from Vancouver tonight. Anita.
Rosie, at least 33 people are dead, nearly 200 hurt, and more than a dozen are still missing. Now, powerful winds and unprecedented rainfall caused several rivers to breach. Japan is now assessing the damage of what's being called the strongest typhoon to hit the country in decades. Tens of thousands of troops and rescue workers have been sent in to help, but with 6 million people forced from their homes, evacuation centers set up in coastal towns are overrun. The storm has been downgraded to a tropical depression as it continues north, and there is some sense of normalcy returning to Tokyo, but just how much devastation has been left behind, well, that will take days, if not weeks, to figure out. Rosie?
Great. Thanks for that, Anita. Appreciate it. That's Anita Bath in Vancouver tonight. A Calgary woman is fighting a bureaucratic barrier. She's had her limbs amputated, and now she's trying to make her condo building more accessible. Rosa Marcatelli from our Go Public unit found it's an issue people with disabilities are facing across the country.
And this is pretty much useless to you.
Yes. So I have to push it down and then push the door at the same time, which I cannot do that.
Verna Marzo will never forget the embarrassment of being stuck outside her Calgary condo building in the cold for hours, waiting for someone to let her in. The quadruple amputee can't open the doors on her own, and her condo board has refused to install automatic doors. Marzo says none of the other doors in the building are an option.
If there's a fire, I'm dead.
2 years ago, Marzo got a severe blood infection. Doctors had to amputate both legs and arms to save her life. When she bought her condo earlier this year, she knew it wasn't perfect for her needs, but none were. She hoped to deal with issues as they came up, but says she never expected to have to fight for a door.
No solution for me. But if they will just put that push button automatic door, woohoo!
Freedom.
Yes.
Manitoba, Ontario, and Nova Scotia are the only provinces with accessibility laws, but only Ontario's addresses residential condo buildings. And even that law falls short, according to a recent review released by former Ontario Lieutenant Governor David Onley. We're almost 14 years later, he writes, and the promised accessible Ontario is nowhere in sight. For most disabled persons, Ontario is not a place of opportunity, but one of countless dispiriting, soul-crushing barriers.
People with disabilities shouldn't have to live that way.
This advocate says weak building codes and too few provincial accessibility laws are causing a chronic lack of housing for people with disabilities. Even the country's new Accessible Canada Act, he says, is well-intentioned, but it only covers federally regulated buildings.
This is a trend going on around the world. Canada is lagging way behind.
More than 3 million people over the age of 15 have at least one physical disability. That's according to Stats Can. In Marzo's case, Go Public's repeated request to the condo board for comment went unanswered.
They will get old too, and they will lose their strength, and they will thank me for that door if they will do it now.
She's planning to talk to a lawyer for advice on what to do next. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
If you have a story for Rosa and her team, you can email gopublic.cbc.ca. Much more campaign coverage ahead here on The National. Election Day, a week tomorrow. So what does that final campaign stretch look like for the parties? Our Sunday political panel is standing by. Plus, when Thanksgiving gets political, we ask our 6 millennials to dish up what's on their mind with 1 week to go. And later, tree planting promises. Why that kind of green move isn't as easy as it seems.
My name is David Hurley.
My name is Shakir Chambers.
My name is Michael Hay.
I formerly worked for Harper's Prime Minister's office and for the Ontario government on Doug Ford's election campaign.
I ran 2 national campaigns for the Liberal Party under the leadership of Paul Martin.
In 2017, I was Jagmeet Singh's leadership campaign director.
This election will be divisive.
And the last one for at least 2 of the major party leaders.
This election will be historic.
Only 1 week to go in the 2019 federal election, and with no clear path to a majority anyway, all the parties are hoping politics is on the menu this Thanksgiving. The leaders' debates are over, the costed platforms released, and the advanced polls now open, so expect to hear a lot more of this in the coming week.
I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote.
So many of you are pulling late nights and early mornings, knocking on doors.
We're hearing from our candidates, more and more volunteers are coming out to get the message out, to get the vote out.
But with the race still so close, what are parties doing to get out the vote? And how will they use this final week to convince Canadians? So time to bring in our Sunday War Room panel. David, Shakir, and Michael. Good to see everybody in person. I'm sorry I wasn't with you last week. I want to start, if I can, with something that Jagmeet Singh was asked today, because obviously now a lot of the questions from journalists are turning towards how will a minority government work? Who are you willing to work with? What are you willing to trade off? He was asked, would you be willing to form a coalition with the Liberals to stop the Conservatives? And he said, oh, yeah, I'll do whatever it takes to stop the Conservatives. So my question around that is that still okay? Is that okay to be saying already? Because he's still also saying, please vote for me. So is it too early to have that conversation?
I think he's saying both. I think he's saying that he's running for prime minister, which all of us know that he's doing. His name is on the ballot for prime minister. And then he's also laid out his 6 priorities. We saw that this week. They're prioritizing universal pharmacare, dental care, waiving student debt.
Bunch of other things.
A whole bunch of things. There's 6 of them. And those are the priorities that they'll be pushing on no matter what the election outcome.
But do you think that sending those 2 messages at the same time runs the risk of confusing people, I guess is what I'm asking?
No, I think it's just like a genuine offer for Canadians so that they can know that they can go to the polls and they can vote for who they want. It's probably strategically their own strategic messaging against the Liberals' message that's starting to come out this week, which is a message around a strategic vote, right? So Liberals are trying to convince Canadians not to vote for the party that they want, but to hold their nose and to vote for them and to settle for Liberals when all the other parties are trying to convince people to go and vote for them.
It's that whole strategic voting thing, and it's certainly a play that the Liberals have made in the past. If you vote for the NDP, you're going to end up with the Conservatives. Does that work? Is this the right time for them to be doing that? What do you make of that strategy?
It needs to work. It needs to work, and it often does work. But here are the preconditions where it works, where the Conservatives are seen as potential or likely winners, so there's a threat of a Conservative government.
So a real threat.
A real threat of a Conservative government, and where center-left voters see the difference between the Conservatives and the Liberals as larger than the difference between the Liberals and the New Democrats or the Liberals and the Greens. Okay?
That part would be true, maybe.
Well,
second part?
I don't know. I mean, I think the Liberals, to be honest, have a job to convince people of that over the course of the next week, and it's probably better done by emphasizing what people ought to be concerned about Mr. Scheer's potential government, than trying to convince Green voters that the Liberal Party has a better environmental platform, for example.
Okay. What do you think about that whole, even the talk around what a government might look like? I mean, it's partly our fault. We're the ones asking the questions and forcing the conversation. But it is important for Canadians to start considering what that would look like. And it's important for this conversation around strategic voting, which I think a lot of people are confused about, you know? Yeah, well, listen, strategically, as we all know, if the NDP does very well, Conservatives are going to probably do pretty well, right? So I think we would encourage the NDP to do well, people to cast votes for Jagmeet Singh, right? It ends up pretty well for us. I think if you're looking at a minority situation, there really is no obvious partner for the Conservative Party. We spoke weeks ago about a Green NDP, or Liberals, kind of whatever they want to form there, but the Conservatives, very hard to see how you govern unless you get a majority government. So I think we want the NDP to do well so we can kind of slide up the middle and form government. I do want to say, though, that I don't think that a majority government is in the cards for the Conservatives. They're not polling well enough right now to actually gain the 80 seats
that they would need, 75 seats that they would need across the country. That's almost doubling the seats
on top of what they
have right now. Yeah, they have about 95 seats right now. They need to almost double that to get a majority. So a rise in the NDP, I don't think actually helps the Conservatives that much. In fact, as the NDP has been rising in the polls, the Conservatives have been coming down in the polls. So in many ways, the NDP may be eating up the alternative to Trudeau vote in different parts of the country because regionally things are very different.
I'm not sure I agree with that. What do you think?
Well, I think it is obviously the case mathematically that a rising vote on the left of the Liberal Party creates more chances that the Conservatives win seats because it splits votes. In some cases, the NDP will be in a position to win seats, but in other cases, they will just be splitting the vote, which creates a greater prospect of a Conservative government. Now, one thing that has changed, Shakir, since we first started talking about this, is the emergence of the Bloc as a likely real presence. And so at the start of this campaign, when I talked about how the Conservatives had to win a majority to govern, because I didn't see how they could cobble together a government otherwise, if the Bloc wins 40, 45 seats, that is a potential dance partner.
Right.
Yeah, because they're only saying, as a caveat, we have our priority is Quebec. We want Quebec things. We'll talk to whoever will give us that. That's possible. It's the Conservatives.
Right. Yeah, the rise of the Bloc changes the game for sure, right? It just creates new possibilities for governance. And I would also say, maybe 2 weeks ago when the Liberals had a large majority of seats in Quebec, we kind of looked at the seat count and the Liberals are winning by a lot. With the Bloc now rising, seat counts are pretty even between the Conservatives and the Liberals. So again, you want to form a coalition with the Bloc. What are you willing to give up in that particular...
Yeah, of course, the risk of forming any sort of formal coalition with a separatist party is fraught, I think.
I would say that there is... I don't even think there would be a coalition in this government, right? So like, what would you be willing to give on policy issues versus what would you be able to take away off of
Okay, let's put all those hypotheticals away for a minute and talk about what has to happen over the next week. Because while it is true that the NDP has come up, the Bloc has come up, the Liberals and the Conservatives are sort of bouncing around, still around the same space. So what does each party need to do? Why don't you start of talk about the Liberals or whoever you want, but yeah.
Well, I think that every party is rethinking their strategy for the final week right now because the last week has thrown, I think, a lot of assumptions up in the air for people. And so the NDP are now thinking of a much bigger push, I'm sure, in the last week than they would have been contemplating maybe at the beginning. The Greens, on the other hand, probably have to retreat to Vancouver Island and try to see what
That's exactly what she's doing.
Try to see what they can save out of there. I mean, I think the task for the Liberal Party is pretty clear. It needs to galvanize the left, the center left of the country behind Mr. Trudeau again, the way it was in 2015. And I think that in order to do that, they're going to have to spend the rest of this week dramatizing the consequences of a Scheer government. And I would likely, if I was them, I would play off of the platform and the unspecified cuts and the link to Ford and all that. But I think that's really where it has to go, is they've got to make people who are thinking about an NDP vote or thinking about a Green vote say, actually, I can't take the risk of a Scheer victory. It's too consequential.
What does the NDP do? I agree. I think they're looking for ways to sort of up the momentum a bit and probably are changing what their plans were for this last week. And
Well, I think all the campaigns will be rallying across the country. We'll be seeing that. And then Canadians will be having more people knock on their doors and phone them to get out their vote. And so the NDP has to make turn the momentum that they've built over the last week. They have to turn that into actual votes. And
do you think there's enough time for that? Because I wondered whether this hadn't happened a little too late. Because we're not seeing it. We're seeing it in some of Jagmeet Singh's favorables, but not necessarily in wide swaths of the voting population. So I wonder if maybe he's run out of time to change the momentum into votes.
Yeah, I think only time will tell. We'll only know that after the election. But personally, I think that the timing was pretty much as good as it gets. The Greens peaked too early in this election, so we can see what too early looks like, and then we can test out what peaking last week looks like for Jagmeet. But I think that the polling has shown that the youth vote is where Jagmeet's best vote is. Up to 40% of young people are supporting Jagmeet. He's leading in those polls. And then we've actually seen that voter turnout on campuses. Last week, Elections Canada put out those results, is double what it was in 2015. And in 2015, that's when we saw a surge in youth vote. So those trends look good for the NDP. We won't really know what they mean until until
Although
it happens.
the campus vote was also bigger because it was open for more days, so that's part of it. And I would also say young people, the efficiency of their vote obviously is not as reliable as older people. What do you expect to see?
If you're the Conservatives, I think the biggest thing is you just need to remind voters of why they need to vote for you and against, again, the Liberal government, right? So you're going to probably see themes of, again, the SNC stuff. You're going to probably see themes of, for the West Coast voters, failure to build pipelines, and generally speaking, the higher cost of living in Canada. And that kind of pushes Scheer's message forward in a center is that affordability is the issue here, and we can help address affordability issues. I don't think their message or their strategy changes that dramatically, right?
Does where they go change, do you think? Because now it's about, you know, seat-rich areas as opposed to Western Canada, for
ultimately, if the Conservatives do not do well in the 905, there's no path to victory. They're going to focus on Ontario, they're going to focus on the 905 area, and they're going to try to drive that vote to get those victories in those key ridings.
What about the Liberals? Same thing? I mean, he was all over the 905 today. Andrew Scheer took a day off. Well-deserved, no comment, no criticism, but is that where the Liberals have to be too?
Well, I think they have more battlegrounds than the Conservatives do. So I think, yes, the 905, and you saw Mr. Trudeau going through the 905 this weekend and holding rallies, but they're in a battle in Quebec. I mean, frankly, the other parties are no longer in a battle in Quebec, but the Liberals are in a big fight in Quebec with a lot of seats on the line with the Bloc, and there remain a lot of seats in play in British Columbia. A lot of seats in play in British Columbia, and in an election this close, that's very important. So I would certainly expect to see the Liberals back in British Columbia again before the election is out too.
Okay, all right, so this is it. We're going to talk. It'll be the night before next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you back here, as I said, for the last Sunday before Election Day.
Right.
But next on The National, testing solutions for pollution. The Liberals and the Green Party have pitched planting millions of trees to fight climate change. Sounds simple, but we found out it's not nearly as easy as it seems. We will explain that next.
One day they won't be able to keep us out.
New mysteries.
You up for some surveillance work? Absolutely. Our murderer didn't know that.
Taking the cases
When they staged this cover-up.
others can't handle.
Staying out of trouble.
Frankie Drake Mysteries, Mondays at 9 on CBC and CBC Gem.
Well, where's the fun in that?
Many experts have said that our climate action plan is the boldest.
Every major party leader has to address climate change.
We will not leave you with a climate emergency with galloping levels of global warming.
Recent polls show it's a top issue for many voters, although some are reluctant to pay much more to fight it.
We are going to repeal the carbon tax, which will reduce the cost of living, make life more affordable. And we are going to take the climate change fight global.
Unlike the Conservatives, Liberals believe that climate change is a real emergency that we must address now.
But even measures that seem straightforward can turn out to be a challenge. The Liberals have promised to plant 2 billion trees, the Greens 10 billion. But if it seems like an easy solution, chances are you've probably never done it. Tina Lovegreen shows us the policy implications of what is a back-breaking job.
Trekking up a mountain like this requires Olympian effort. But after 24 years, Lan Dixon has a way of making it look easy.
A lot of people quit within the first week or two. I mean, it's definitely breaks a lot of people. There's nothing about it that's easy.
And you're planting as you go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, get rid of the trees and make it lighter, right? So you want to do that as fast as possible. But you still have to make it to the top.
BC needs to plant 40 million more trees next year to reforest land devastated by 2 record-breaking wildfire seasons. And to do that, industry needs to find at least 1,000 more workers. The need to get more planters is only growing. A landmark study found planting 1 trillion trees could effectively combat climate change, creating a political incentive at a time when climate change has been top of mind for voters. But finding people to do the job can be tough.
Experienced planters can plant a couple hundred trees an hour. For a rookie or someone like me who they've just shown how to do this, it can take much longer, and getting around is even more challenging.
Most days, Jeff Andrews enjoys grinding it out.
You'll have points in the day on hard days, yeah, where you feel like quitting, you feel like just it's impossible. You have points where you just feel completely exhausted and your legs don't want to move.
But on top of the physical challenges, it's seasonal work. There are no benefits, no guaranteed hours, and planters are paid 20 to 28 cents per tree.
Because the prices have stayed stagnant for quite a few years, it's students and younger people that are going, I'm going to stay home and work at McDonald's or do landscaping or something like that, because I'd rather stay at home and go out planting and go through the hardships of planting.
Industry bumped wages this year to attract more workers, but Dixon says it's been a long time coming.
It's slowly getting better. I think they're starting to realize we're kind of an essential job and that they need us.
And they need more like him if they're going to plant billions of more trees. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, near Boston Bar, BC.
I thought I might be able to do that, but now I'm convinced I can't. Among the major parties, the Conservatives stand alone in rejecting a carbon tax, and that also sets them apart from some big players in the oil patch. Aaron Collins met industry leaders who actually welcome a price on carbon.
This is one of the front lines in the fight against climate change, a real-world lab of sorts for carbon capture and storage. And some of the biggest names in oil and gas are leading the charge here.
Why are big companies like Shell and Total interested in this research?
We're showing that we can make the industry more commercially competitive, as well as promoting social and environmental responsibilities.
The idea is simple. Shoot the carbon underground to help the environment, then use it to squeeze more oil out of wells.
We could be injecting enough CO2 right now to be neutral. We have the capacity, we have the wells, we have the expertise. It makes a boatload of jobs. It is the immediate answer.
Facilities like this are a big part of Canada's energy industry's plan to reduce its environmental footprint and boost its bottom line.
In the world of energy now, better product is a lower carbon product. And that's how you stay in the business for a long time. That's what the big oil companies are doing.
Many are also on board with carbon pricing. When former Alberta Premier Rachel Notley announced her carbon tax, Big Oil was on stage supporting her plan. For many at this energy conference, the future includes fewer GHG emissions and a price on carbon. Unlike the majority of Albertans, most major oil companies that work in Alberta, including Canada's largest, support carbon taxes, something that the company's CEO says surprises many.
I think if they don't know about what we're doing, I think they're shocked about it because it's so easy to demonize it, and a lot of people are trying to blame us for everything.
For Little, what it means to be an oil company is changing. It now means being part of the climate change solution. Suncor just announced a $1.4 billion cogeneration project that will take 2.5 million tons of CO2 out of the air.
It's the same as 550,000 cars. In the province of Alberta, that's 15% of the entire vehicle fleet.
A good start, but the oil and gas industry remains Canada's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and production is on the rise. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
And next up on The National, we check in with our panel of millennial voters, what they're mulling over this Thanksgiving weekend, and how they prepared for the inevitable political talk around the dinner table. That's next.
opportunity.
The city of tomorrow, right in Toronto's heart.
Leads to a shocking discovery.
I think somebody's trying to kill you.
I'm not certain that's what's going on.
Murdoch Mysteries, Monday at 8 on CBC and CBC Gem.
There's just 1 week left in this election campaign to win over voters, and there's one group in particular that could prove very powerful at the polls. Millennials make up the biggest voting bloc this time round, including these 6 people who are still undecided. We've been following them all campaign as they slowly weigh their options and get to a decision. And tonight, their takes on last week's leaders debate and what they want to see over the next 7 days.
After watching the leaders debate, I felt pretty amped up.
I felt kind of disappointed with the outcome.
For me, the leaders debate only narrowed down my choices.
There was a lot of interrupting.
It was exciting.
I was actually much more impressed with the most recent French debate.
Hi, my name is Saba Chaudhry.
My name is Petros Kuzmu.
Hi, this is Emily from the Lac St. Louis riding.
I live in the Spadina Fort York riding.
Long Range Mountains. After watching the leaders debate, I realized that we're not ready to talk about Indigenous issues. The fact that pipelines dominated the whole section, very disappointing.
Andrew Scheer started quite negative when he did some name calling to Justin Trudeau. So I personally think that from the very onset of the debate, it was quite negatively framed.
At certain points during the debate, we couldn't even hear what each person was saying because they were all talking at the same time.
Andrew Scheer was the clear leader for me in the debates. He seemed very ready with answers to answer the tough questions.
I think Jagmeet Singh did an excellent job in portraying a sense of optimism, a sense of vision, warmth that I found really appealing in a leader.
In the French debate, I thought a number of the leaders did a great job. I thought Trudeau had a better debate. Andrew Scheer was able to outline some more things on his platform.
So this weekend is Thanksgiving, and I will be visiting family and friends, and of course the Canadian election will be a hot topic.
Our plans for Thanksgiving are hopefully to have one out in the field. Obviously, we're farmers and harvest has been pretty tough in Western Canada. If the weather holds, we'll be out in the field with the combines.
My family and I, we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving.
I plan to sit with my extended family and have Thanksgiving. We consider talking politics around the table healthy.
In the past, the main issue that would arise is that there was a language barrier, there was a cultural barrier when I talk about the elections with my family.
I do enjoy a healthy political discussion and understanding a different set of views, especially if someone is intending to potentially vote differently than myself.
When I take in all this information and see what my friends are posting on Facebook and what my family is telling me, I find that I needed to kind of take some time, step back, disconnect, really reflect on what's important for me.
I tend to make my own decisions on how parties align with my ideologies and how their platforms look for taking our country into the future, and really starting to look on how their decisions are going to affect my 5- and 7-year-old kids.
What I still want to hear about from the party leaders are their thoughts on foreign policies.
How we're going to really find a way to repair the relationship with China. I realize we have to hold other nations accountable for certain items, but China's an important player on the world stage.
I'd like to see a leader that wants us to pursue alternate energy sources, but at the same time realizes that we are still very dependent on natural gas.
I kind of wish that maybe like a party could have touched a bit on youth mental health. It's very close to my heart.
We've sort of missed out on talking about the people who are in our military, our veterans who are no longer in the military, and the people who have died and their families that need to be taken care of.
I look forward to next week as we get closer to the vote.
Definitely getting closer to decide on who I'm going to vote for.
I'm still undecided.
I'm definitely debating between Liberals and NDP.
Between Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh.
I still need to learn a little bit more about my local candidates, but hey, I got a little bit more time, I'll take it.
I love how serious they are about this, and I love that we're going to find out maybe next week. Okay, we'll check in with them, as I said, next Sunday, the day before the federal election. Coming up this week on The National, though, just a few days to go before Election Day, I'm going to hit the heart of the vote-rich GTA. On Tuesday, The National will come to you from Burlington, Ontario. It's a suburban riding key to the hopes of both the Liberals and the Conservatives. And I'll bring you the story of Milton. That's one of the highest profile races in the country. a fast-growing riding where voters will choose between well-known Conservative Lisa Raitt, going for her 4th term, and a star Liberal candidate, Olympic gold medalist Adam Van Koeverden. The stories of the ridings lining the path to victory, live on The National this Tuesday. We'll see you then. And stay with us this hour. The moment is next. That deadly typhoon in Japan put an end to Team Canada's hopes for a win at the Rugby World Cup. But Canadian players were determined to help their host country anyway. We'll take you there next. So Team Canada was all set for their last game in the World Rugby Cup. But when the typhoon hit Japan, the high-stakes match between Canada and Namibia was canceled. It was Canada's last chance for a win this tournament, but the team didn't let their disappointment get them down. Instead, they got right to work helping with the cleanup effort, and that is our moment.
The typhoon hit Japan, and as a consequence of that, 3 World Cup rugby games were canceled, including ours, our game, Canada versus Namibia. And our team, with no prompting, decided to go out and help the people in Kamishi where they were, to just see the character of these young men and their coaching staff, to go out and say, you know what, we may have gotten a bitter lot, but our lives aren't impacted. It's just a rugby game. Yeah, that's the kind of group they are. This wasn't some planned PR exercise. This was something the guys decided, organic and natural, just to go out and help. And again, it speaks to these athletes. And on this Thanksgiving, to see that, to end the tournament this way, yes, we would have rather played the game, but you know what? Our guys can leave Japan with their heads held high and be role models for a lot of other people on this weekend.
You probably mostly see Tim Powers talking politics, but he also loves rugby. And that's a lovely story of some Canadians doing something pretty nice for this Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you've enjoyed yours. The countdown to election night begins right now. That's the National for Sunday, October 13th. Have a good night, everyone. All right.